And welcome back to America's Voice Live. Good to have you here on a Tuesday as we just try to keep up with all of the breaking news.
Yes, there is a lot of breaking news and a lot of new appointees that we're hearing about if the Biden administration does take over. And Amanda Head has a guest who's going to chat us up about that. Amanda?
Does come to fruition, a President Joe Biden, a Biden administration. Of course, he's already had some folks that I think he's had in mind for a while, like a government in waiting, as my guest would say. Paul Kamenar, Counsel for the National Legal and Policy Center. Great to have you.
Thank you, Amanda. Great to be here.
All right, so I have in my hand this complaint filed, addressed to John Demers, who is with the FARA unit with the DOJ, and this is a complaint that your organization filed, basically alleging that the Biden Center, for those who don't know, it's at a university in Pennsylvania, but you filed this complaint against Hunter Biden, the Truman National Security Project, and the University of Pennsylvania, and its Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. Sounds fancy, right? Well, it is fancy for corruption. So you filed this complaint alleging, among other things, well, I say alleging, I think we're far beyond alleging at this point because a lot of us have seen the hard drive, but conspiracy, money laundering, tax evasion, wire fraud, those sound pretty serious. So I would say that it goes even beyond registering as a foreign agent.
Well, sure, Amanda. There are a lot of parts to this background with respect to Joe Biden, the Biden Center, and Antony Blinken, who he nominated as his Secretary of State, who was the managing director of the Biden Center. Back in May, we filed a complaint with the Department of Education to start out with, asking where is this money from China coming into the University of Pennsylvania being funneled to the Biden Center.
Right.
Just in the last couple of years, there was $67 million from China coming into the University of Pennsylvania, of which $22 million was anonymous. It just said from China, didn't say who it was coming from. And there was one donation in May of 2018, a single donation of $14.5 million from somebody in China, we don't know who, that gave the money to the University of Pennsylvania, and then we allege was funneled to the Biden Center. So Antony Blinken was managing the Biden Center for Joe Biden, and they've had these conferences. One was the China Summit last year, where they had the consular ambassador from New York come down, give the keynote speech. It's all about how we can work together with China. And this was at the height of the China virus that they were covering up. And so you don't have one bad word by the Biden Center against China on this.
So as far as the money, all right, we've got the 22 million that was anonymous, that's a part of the 67 million that came from China. If
Correct.
You had to guess that 22 million that was anonymous, who do you think it came from?
Well, they did list other donations that identified various companies, China businesses that came money in. So here we don't know who it's coming from. It could be
Are we talking
somebody,
CCP entities?
It could be somebody from the CCP, or at least connected to the CCP. I mean, after all, you have Hunter Biden, and that's another complaint we have with respect to that as part of it, who was taking part of the deal with the China Energy Fund, and Xi Jinping, I think his name is, was connected to the CCP, and also Hunter was using those connections to introduce those people to his father, vice president at the time, and other Washington operatives. And this, we allege, makes him a foreign agent. And under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, Hunter has to register as a foreign agent, and so does the Biden Center. And there are other things.
Tony Blinken, right?
Well,
as
Tony
managing
Blinken
director?
would be involved in this, and then you get into problems about money laundering, tax evasion, et cetera, because when you're talking about moving money, you have a lot of sub-crimes that go along with that, not just being registered as a foreign agent.
But it's not just Tony Blinken, right? I mean, as you and I discussed before we came to air, the Biden Center has almost served as a government in waiting to step into these cabinet positions as they come about.
That's true, Amanda. You know, the Biden Center was established just a couple years ago after the Obama administration, and a lot of the people from Biden's staff, et cetera, decamped to the Biden Center as the government in waiting. And so if you look at the roster of who is there and managing director and executive director and so forth, there are a lot of the Biden, Obama people, and obviously a lot of them are now going to be moving back to the State Department to carry out the policies that we think are unduly favorable to China, which we think is a big mistake and a national security problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, these are people who, under the Obama administration, which as Obama said himself, no major scandals, which is pretty laughable. Who are some, we've got about 45 seconds left, who are some of the others on that roster from the Biden Center, from the Obama administration, who could now be a part of the Biden administration? I
don't have the full list there, but there's another person that you should know about, and that is David Kessler, who was Obama's Food and Drug Administration head. And he was being groomed to be the Secretary of the Health Human Services. And we filed a complaint going back to 1996 that he was basically stiffing the taxpayer on cab fares, et cetera. He wasn't doing a full travel expenses. And he said, oh, it was his staff that was making the problem. So
I do think that Kessler has been crooked as long as I've been alive. And that's a fair amount of time.
Well,
Paul Kamenar, we appreciate it so much. Everybody, you can go and Google their complaint, but look up the National Legal and Policy Center. A lot of great information there. And if Joe Biden is indeed inaugurated on January 20th, we all need to do our research and know who these people are, who he's appointing to very important, influential, and consequential positions. So, Paul Kamenar, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Stephen Tudor will be back right after.